Good evening. On behalf of the City of Edmonds, I'd like to welcome you to the 2021 Edmonds Police Department Award Ceremony. My name is Mike Nelson. I am the Mayor of Edmonds, and it is my distinct honor and pleasure to kick off this award ceremony, the 20th year, by the way, that this award ceremony has happened. And it is it's, obviously, or not obviously, but I think it goes without saying sometimes that officers are heroes every day. They put themselves out in harm's way, and most of the time folks never know or never see the sacrifices and the challenges they face day in and day out, night and day. But these particular awards are for those really unique and exceptional circumstances where they really went above and beyond and call of duty, as well as citizens in our community who have stepped up, and also our non-commissioned employees. So it is my distinct honor to welcome you all to this ceremony, and looking forward to seeing the award recipients. Next, I'd like to introduce our acting chief, Michelle Bennett. Thank you.
My name is Michelle Bennett, and I'm our acting chief here in the City of Edmonds. I want to welcome all of you to our 20th annual awards night. As the mayor just stated, this is a very important event for all of our police staff, citizens here within the City of Edmonds, and also our non-commissioned staff. It's important that we recognize the members of our department for their special contributions that they've made to law enforcement and the law enforcement mission this past year. It's also an opportunity to recognize any volunteer groups or other folks that assist us with our mission. May 9th through 15th is actually National Police Week, and in 1962, John F. Kennedy signed a proclamation calling May 15th National Police Officers Day. So that week for us is where this awards ceremony, we generally try to fit that in. And we like to pause and recognize over 900,000 members of law enforcement across the country. In particular, we will remember that more than 22,000 police officers have paid the ultimate sacrifice and have been killed in the line of duty since the first recorded death in 1786. In 2020, 295 law enforcement officers and correction officers lost their lives, and so far this year, 124 officers have given their lives in the line of service. Since Washington State became a state in 1889, over 302 officers have been killed just in Washington State, the most recent being Tulalip police officer Charlie Cortez. That happened November 17th, 2020. So assisting me this evening with this awards ceremony will be Acting Assistant Chief Alan Hardwick, Acting Assistant Chief Joshua McClure, and Sergeant Shane Hawley. This past year, our officers have exhibited many outstanding examples of teamwork, resulting in excellent police work and service to the community. And we will recognize those Edmonds police officers today in this awards ceremony, as well as the community personnel who have exhibited themselves astoundingly during the year 2020. I'll turn over the podium now to Sergeant Shane Hawley.
So the first category this evening is the Citizen Service Citation. It's awarded to citizens whose assistance to the police department was given without regard to personal welfare or which had a positive bearing on the outcome of an incident and contributed to the furtherance of the law enforcement community. And our first recipient tonight is Ms. Jamie Hall. This year's Citizen Award recipients have a common theme: watching out for your neighbors. That is exactly what Jamie Hall did on October 30th, 2020. Jamie had not seen her neighbor, an elderly man, for a couple of days. This was odd because she had not seen him at the mailbox, and his car had not left his driveway. She was concerned that something might have happened to him. As it turns out, she was right. Her neighbor was in need of medical attention and could not call for help. Because of her call, our officers were able to get into his house and get him the medical attention that he needed. Because of her willingness to get involved, we're pleased to present Jamie Hall with the Citizen Service Citation. Thank you. Oh, over there.
Can't go away yet.
There you go.
The mayor and I would like to present to you this Citizen Service Citation. He will give you this cool pin, and this is for your distinguished service to the citizens of the City of Edmonds. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And our next recipient is Miss Rosalind Durst. Come on up right here in front of the badge. There you go. So keeping up with our theme of watching out for your neighbors, Rosalind Durst did just that on November 17th, 2020. Rosalind usually heard her neighbor moving around in his unit right next door. It had been a few days and she'd not heard anyone making any noise. Rosalind noticed his car was still in the parking lot and he had not been seen leaving. She knew the man had some health concerns and had tried calling him without success. She'd also tried knocking on his door. All this prompted her call to 911. Arriving officers were able to break out a small window to get inside, and they found him, suffering from a medical emergency and unable to call for help. Aid units were called, and he was transported to the hospital where he received medical care that he needed. For her willingness to act, we're proud to present Ms. Rosalind Durst with the Citizen Service Citation. Thank you.
Mayor and I would like to present you with the Citizen Service Citation for your distinguished services to the citizens of Edmonds, and he has a special thing for you. Thank you so much for being willing to step in.
This year we have a couple of noteworthy events to mention. The first is to bring attention to the life-saving efforts of members of the police department. For the past 5 years, our officers have been carrying these with them. It goes by the brand name Narcan, and it's a genuine lifesaver for anyone who's overdosed on opioids. Last year, our officers used Narcan 17 times. That's 17 lives saved, 17 families that didn't have to get the message that their loved one had lost their life. And we applaud them for their life-saving measures. We'd also like to thank community members and businesses as a whole. In 2020, during the pandemic, we received a lot of personal protective equipment donated to us. As most of you recall, PPE was difficult to find during those times. We had problems just getting basic protective equipment. But in typical Edmonds fashion, the members of the community stepped up and we were given a lot of personal protective equipment to keep our officers safe. For that, we'd like to thank all of the individual donors and businesses that chipped in. Thank you. Our next award is the Letter of Commendation. It's awarded to department employees or officers from other law enforcement agencies who perform particularly noteworthy acts or service based on determined and intelligent performance. I'd now like to call up Senior Animal Control Officer Tabitha Shoemake. Hi, Tab. 2020 was a busy year for Senior Animal Control Officer Tabitha Shoemake. She provides a leadership presence and mentorship role in the animal control and parking unit. She provides training on parking and animal control to our newly hired officers. Speaking of mentorship, Tabitha spends her own time mentoring the youth in our Police Explorer program. As we all know, 2020 was a difficult year that brought up many different challenges between law enforcement and the communities that they serve. Tabitha represented our department with dignity and pride during an in-depth interview with a local newspaper. On top of all that, she volunteered to be part of our community engagement team. She attended multiple events throughout the city, meeting our community members and answering their questions. While we view this as a busy year, the reality is for Tabitha, this is just what she does on a regular basis. She is personally invested in this agency and community she serves every day. And for her efforts, we're proud to present Senior Animal Control Officer Tabitha Shoemake with the Letter of Commendation.
And the mayor and I would like to present you with this, oh, you're good, letter of commendation for your service to the citizens of Edmonds, and I've seen firsthand the amazing work you do, and I could not be prouder to work with you.
Thank you.
You bet. And the mayor has a pin for you, but thank you.
I'm like, I need to shake a hand or something.
Here's your pin.
Thank you.
And add it to the other pins, which will continue to grow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tabitha.
Our next award is the Meritorious Service Citation, and it is awarded to an employee for a laudable or extraordinary act or outstanding community service. At this time, in front, we have Sergeant Ryan Spear, Officer Eric Martinez, Officer Rashawn Strange, Officer Christian Gonzalez, and Officer Robert Peck. On September 29th, 2020, Sergeant Spear was the shift supervisor of a very new crew. Officer Martinez was in his 7th week of field training with Officer Peck. Officer Strange was on his 3rd day of solo patrol, And the veteran of the crew was Officer Gonzalez, who was on his 4th day of solo patrol. At 3:30 p.m., these officers were dispatched to a shooting that had just occurred at the Buhan Market on Highway 99. 3 people had been shot and no one knew where the shooter was. They all responded in without hesitation and immediately began rendering aid to the victims. This was a chaotic scene, and it was possible the shooter was still at the scene. The vast majority of our patrol staff has attended advanced first aid training. These officers were no exception. Thanks to their advanced level of training, they were able to provide advanced first aid techniques to help control bleeding to the victims. Acting Chief Hardwick was the 5th officer on scene, and as he put it, what he found was the 4 officers acting like a veteran crew. They had already started full wound assessment, applying chest seals, tourniquets, and other significant bleeding control measures. Sergeant Spear, as the shift supervisor, handled the coordination of incoming units and the search for the suspect. As you can imagine, this sort of incident draws a full response from the entire county. As the shift supervisor, Sergeant Spear did an amazing job putting everyone where they needed to be and coordinating the initial investigation efforts. It is important to note that this was a potential triple homicide that had just occurred, and these officers were working hard to make sure that didn't end up being the case. Once the medic unit showed up, they quickly loaded all 3 victims and rushed them to the hospital. The next day, the medics that responded noted that if it had not been for their advanced medical care these officers provided, none of the victims would have survived. Unfortunately, 1 victim did pass away at the hospital, but the other 2 were able to make it, thanks to the immediate life-saving efforts of these officers. So for his actions as the shift supervisor, we're awarding Sergeant Ryan Spear with a letter of commendation. And because of their life-saving efforts in the face of great danger, the Edmonds Police Department is awarding Officer Eric Martinez, Officer Rashawn Strange, Officer Christian Gonzalez, and Officer Robert Peck with the Meritorious Service Citation. Thank you.
On behalf of the City of Edmonds, the Mayor and I would like to thank you for your service. I will hand all these out. Thank you for being there that day, for providing first aid, and for all of the work you did. Sorry. Mayor's going to hand you your medals.
I'm going to shake your hands too, but I think yours, our hands are full. Thank you. Thank you.
You down the other way. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great work. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys. Each year, department members nominate their fellow employees for recognition based on their work and actions. For the 2020 year, no less than 6 nominations came in for then Acting Chief Jim Lawless. The majority of those nominations were for his leadership during the COVID pandemic. While many police departments were struggling with keeping their employees healthy, we had virtually no cases. This was in large part due to some creative, outside-the-box patrol scheduling on his part to keep contact at a minimum and entire blocks of officers on standby in case infections did occur. Needless to say, the last year has been challenging, but then Acting Chief Lawless provided the department with the direction that guided us through the pandemic. And we also recognize him today for his 25 years of service to the Edmonds Police Department and community. He served as a field training officer, narcotics detective, SWAT team leader, TAC officer at the police academy, corporal, sergeant, assisting, and acting chief. Most importantly, he was a mentor, leader, and friend to many in the department. He left his mark on the agency and the community. And we're proud to present him with the Meritorious Service Citation. Each year, one of our members is recognized as the Non-Commissioned Employee of the Year. This employee is nominated by fellow department members and is reflective of the recipient's significant achievement and dedication. This year's Employee of the Year is Police Services Assistant Carly Kern. Come on up. This is where you get to come up. There you go. Okay, we can clap now. There you go. I'm sure there'll be lots of clapping. Carly's not shy, in case you didn't notice. Carly is one of the most positive people I've ever worked with. To say that she is excited to come to work every day is an understatement. That's true. She is the only person I know that will also tell you how much she loves records and records management. It's almost concerning. We've had this conversation before. Carly has been here for a couple of years now and already made a huge impact, not only with her worker, but also with the department as a whole. This was on full display during our last accreditation process. We are proud to be an accredited agency. It shows we are doing things the right way. It also is a big task because it means we have to provide documentation for hundreds of standards and policies. Acting Chief McClure, who oversees the process, noted the following in his nomination of Carly. Carly made it known that she had previous experience from her former employee with accreditation. She willingly jumped in, attended necessary training, and took over significant aspects of the process. She scoured records over a 4-year window, prepared proofs, and consistently evaluated our standards to make sure that we were in the best aspect of compliance. As the accreditation manager, I was in awe of her attention to detail and incredibly grateful to have such a talented partner in the process. You also had to work with Sergeant McClure, so that's part of the award today. Yeah. It is important to note that the team that reviewed our accreditation records made note of the proofs that Carly had put together. They were incredibly impressed. Her work on this project was vital to our success. And today, the Edmonds Police Department Non-Commissioned Employee of the Year is now presented to Police Services Assistant Carly Kern.
I want to say, upon my arrival, how impressed I was with your greeting and just how excited you were to even be here. So thank you so much. This is your certificate for your service to the citizens of Edmonds and distinguished service. Your badge for Employee of the Year, and your service pin, and the mayor has a plaque for you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Each year, one of our members is recognized as the Officer of the Year. This employee is nominated by fellow employees and then selected by previous recipients of the award. This award is reflective of the recipient's significant achievements and dedication. The award is given to a full-time, fully commissioned police officer. This year's selection for the Chief David N. Stern Memorial Officer of the Year is Officer Josh Wong. Officer Wong is one of our department canine teams. He and his partner, Canine Ace, have developed into one of the most reliable canine teams in Snohomish County. The success of any canine team lies in the amount of time the handler puts into the partnership. Officer Wong is exceedingly devoted to his craft. He trains every night he comes to work, even on his days off. He is constantly looking for new training techniques to get the most out of his partner. He has also taken on a huge role as a department trainer. He recently attended the firearms instructor class. He's been a driving force behind training sessions for our department members related to canine unit tactics. Speaking of training, Officer Wong's nomination as Officer of the Year came from a former student officer that he had trained. For the last several years, Officer Wong has been a field training officer. This is a critical role within the department. A field training officer has a tremendous amount of influence over the direction of a new officer's career. Officer Wong's student officers have nothing but positive things to say about him. One student remarked that even when Officer Wong was not his current training officer, he was still reaching out to him to provide assistance during the process. The word mentor consistently comes up when talking to his student officers. This does not stop once his trainees are out of training. He continues to mentor them and provide a resource to help them start out on their careers. He truly cares about others, and it shows. If you talk to other patrol supervisors about Officer Wong, they will all say the same thing. When you see his name logged into service for the night, you take a big deep breath and you sigh, because you know one of the best is out there and he will handle things the right way. This has been critically important as our agency has gone through a lot of turnover. The tenure of the officers on graveyard patrol where Officer Wong works has decreased significantly. He has taken on a huge leadership role with them. He makes every effort to back our newest officers on their calls and make sure everything is going in the right direction. Based on his efforts in department training, his leadership, his training of new officers, and his mentorship role, the Edmonds Police Department is proud to name Officer Josh Wong as Police Officer of the Year. The department's Officer of the Year award was renamed in 2008 as the Chief David N. Stern Memorial Officer of the Year Award to reflect the level of professionalism and service provided by Chief Stern to the Edmonds Police Department. Chief Stern passed away on April 25th, 2007. With us tonight from the Noontime Rotary Club is Mr. Doug Purcell. I'll turn the podium over to him for him to make his remarks and provide you with their award.
Thank you, Sergeant Holly. It's always a pleasure to be here. Our Rotary Club got a new member in the year 2000 when Chief Stern became the police chief here. And he actually threw himself quite effectively into the business of being a Rotarian as well as being a police chief. One of my favorite sights of him was with a red bow tie and a tuxedo when he was the auctioneer for one of our auctions. The circumstances of his participation were such that he was about to become the president of our club. We change on July 1st, and his tenure was going to be from July 1st of 2007 until I was to take over on July 1st of 2008. He was at a Rotary Club meeting talking about how much fun he'd had at the recent convention, how wonderful it was that he felt that he was just about to take on this role, and he left that meeting and on his drive home had an brain aneurysm and actually died in his car. We got together with the then acting police chief Al Campan and started thinking about how we could recognize David in his role as both a Rotarian and the chief of police, and we decided that the best way to do this would be to have a recognition each year of a fine officer that served our community in the same ways that David had served our community as well. We got a perpetual plaque which has the list of all now 14 officers of the year, and we are really pleased this year to present the Rotary award to Officer Wang as the David N. Stern Officer of the Year. We have this nice little crystal memorial that he gets to take home with him, and then the plaque will stay here and be a permanent recognition of Officer Wang's service.
All right, so you've got a little bit of stuff. We still have some more to carry. Yeah, there's more stuff. You're gonna need.
You're carrying a lot of stuff out of here.
It happens every time.
On behalf of the Edmonds Police Department and the City of Edmonds, we want to thank you for your distinguished service. For our citizens in our department, this is your 2020 Officer of the Year badge, so you get to wear all of 2021 and your pin and your certificate, and the mayor is presenting you with a plaque.
Congratulations.
You got a truck to haul all this stuff away. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you.
All right, Officer of the Year, Josh Wong.
This has been a special night of recognition of achievement, as well as remembering those presently in our profession and those who have gone before us. We appreciate the efforts of our own employees, our fellow law enforcement officers, and our citizens and volunteers for all that is done throughout the year to maintain the quality of life in the City of Edmonds. But before we conclude, I want to give my special thanks to Miss Caroline Thompson, who has helped make all of this possible, and since my arrival here has been running around getting everything ready and presented and engraved and plaques, and I just want to thank you so much for all of your effort. I would also like to thank our fantastic Rotary for their attention for the David Stern Award, and of course Sergeant Shane Hawley for all of his effort and dedication in making this go smoothly each year. It was passed on to him personally because of his dedication and commitment to the Edmonds Police Department. I'd also like to thank Josh McClure and Alan Hardwick for their assistance and limiting their bickering. So thank you very much for all of your assistance. Thank you all for being here tonight, and have a great year.